with a smile on my face, yeah, so lift me up. I'm moving on, singing and dancing while I play my song.
Welcome, your Backup Plan Tribe, to another great show today. If you are new here, welcome to our show. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. We love you. We absolutely love you. Welcome. You have reached Tina Ginn with Talking Taboo with Tina, an emergency preparedness coach, a best-selling author of In the Blink of an Eye. Remember, Jeannie? That's how things happen that quickly, in the blink of an eye. Your life is changed forever. I'm an app developer of your Backup Plan app, and I'm located here in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. We focus on real, raw conversations with our listeners about their guest journey from a life-changing event in their life and how that affected them. And people say to me, Tina, what the heck is your backup plan anyways? What does it do, and why do I need it? Your backup plan puts your life all into one place in case of any unpredictable circumstance, while taking that painful aftermath out of that journey, out of that tragedy, out of that, I wish I would have had this. Oh gosh, I didn't know if I had have just, when you lose your purse example, I always use that, something as simple as your wallet or your purse, and you lose it and you think, oh my gosh, like what did I have in my wallet? What did I have in my purse? And I can probably, write down a couple things, but we do fun workshops just on that concept about, okay, everybody, get your wallet out and put it on the counter. Now, don't look in your wallet and tell me, write down on that piece of paper right there, what did you have in your wallet? And people can write maybe 2 or 3 things, and that's it. So look at what is around you in your house. Look at all the things that you don't think about that someone may need for you, or something that you may need in a predicament, like a wildfire when you're not even given 5 minutes notice to evacuate. What do you have prepared? Do you have an emergency kit? Do you have your photos arranged that you can grab? Do you have your jewelry or artifacts, or do you have photos of anything for insurance purposes? That's what I mean. It doesn't matter what the tragedy is. But you guys, I want to empower you to understand the things that you need to get prepared and the things that you can put together in one place so that nobody, whether it's you or your loved one, can figure everything out easily without worrying about what did they want? What did they say? Oh no, it wasn't that at all. It wasn't. And then you argue with family members and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, let's forget about all that. People expect the unexpected because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You don't know what you don't know. And that's a quote, like, I don't even know who said that, but it sounds good, right? It's true. It's so very true. Mike Tyson's famous quote is, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. And it's so very true. And all the investments in the whole wide world won't help you in your journey in life. If you have made these great percentages of growth and revenue from your business or your investments, and then you're gone the next day. And how does anyone in your family know what to do next? How does anybody know where your money is? How does anyone know about your business? How does anybody know where all your accounts are? We can hardly even figure out our own, let alone tell somebody. And are we going to be lying in our bed, dying? And then we're going to say, oh yeah, I forgot, Tina, there's this one too. Yeah, no. It doesn't work like that. And we're not always given 5 minutes. Sometimes we're not even given 2 minutes. Sometimes we're not given a week. Sometimes we're not given a month. But I hate to tell you that it's difficult, so, so very difficult when you don't have your stuff in order, in organized some sort of way. And then people say, well, what do I need to put together? And that's why you have me. That's why you have the app. It tells you it's an assistant, makes it easy. And we will be coming out with a new program called the Emerging Blueprint, which goes hand in hand with your backup plan. And it gives you a library of videos and interviews with accountants and financial advisors and insurance people from all over the world to give you better instruction, better information, short 15 and 20-minute videos that you can sit lying in bed, watch, or sitting by the beach, or under your back porch, or whatever it might be. But I felt that we need to learn and understand what we need to get done so that it makes it easy. Everything's difficult when we don't know how. So that's why I made this app to make it easier for everybody. So let's get this party started. I want to thank all of my listeners, United States and Canada, and Germany is still the top third listener. So welcome, my German listeners. Meine deutsche Freunde sind unserem Podcast willkommen. Wenn Sie Kommentare haben, können Sie gern Fragen stellen. Also danke für deine Freundschaft und danke fürs Erhören, meine deutsche Freunde. So thank you so very much. The next group is Ireland and Italy fighting for fourth place. So thank you, Italy and Ireland for listening to our real life stories. Thank you so very much. Let's get the party started. We have a special guest today. We found a growth. It's cancer. Uncover the pain and peel back the layers. Isn't that what we always do when there's some sort of tragic event? And our special guest today is from St. Catharines, Ontario, and her name is Rosemary French, and I'm just going to bring her on and introduce her. Hi, Rosemary.
Hi, how are you, Tina?
Awesome. Thank you for coming on our show today.
Thank you.
Rosemary is coming from St. Catharines, Ontario. We won't hold that against her. No, I'm just kidding. St. Catharines is a beautiful, beautiful place. I have many friends there. She is a cancer survivor herself. She is executive financial. She was in the executive financial services world. She is an international best-selling author, and the story called Ignite Your Wisdom, she has been a part of in 7 countries. This book is been in. So it's on Amazon, and it's linked down below in the description box as well. So Rosemary, I see you wrote this wonderful story that I only got started before I came on the show. Tell us why did you feel impelled to write this story?
I always knew I needed to tell my story. And as I was going through my cancer journey, I would just start writing. Every day I would write as a way of healing, as a way of getting it out of me and putting it on paper. And the tears would just flow. And I was very expressive of how I felt and the sadness and everything I went through. And I didn't know what I would do with it. And I didn't know if I would ever publish it. And then this year I had an opportunity, a friend of mine who was my yoga teacher at through the last several years, took a position at Ignite Publishing, and she called me and said, I know your story. You've shared it with me. We're publishing a new book called Ignite Your Wisdom, and we are gathering stories, people's stories that have an ignite moment in their life, the thing that changes the trajectory of their life and the wisdom that they gained from it. And she said, and I thought of you. And I said yes right away, and then started writing my story and found it as emotional to write as almost to live through. I would sit and write my story weeping, thinking, I'm not sure I should be doing this, but I knew that it would heal me. I knew that it would continue my healing and maybe help somebody else in theirs.
Absolutely. I'm sure it will.
Hmm.
And I'm sure it was very painful, like that the at some point I'm sure you would be saying it's like writing in a journal too, because when you're writing all your feelings and all of that's coming out and you're thinking to yourself, wow, this hurts so much. Why the heck am I doing it anyway?
Yeah, true. It's true. True.
So where did that bring you from writing the story? Where did the story start for you, do you feel? I mean, you had a great life. You were married for 25 years.
I did. I met my husband, Peter, in high school. I instantly fell in love with him when I met him. And we had a good life. We had 2 beautiful children, Michael and Daniel, raised them in beautiful Niagara. And at one point, Peter, my husband, is changing doctors, and they just do some regular tests because he was going to see a new doctor, and they find a growth in his kidney. And, you know, and I panic because I just lost my father to cancer. And then we find out that Peter's growth is cancer. So he has surgery, and we get the very good news that it was very early stages, didn't need anything, didn't need any further treatment. And we just, you know, a breath, right? You know, okay. Like, you know, I'm going to, you know,
we're doing this. We're
good.
this.
We're good. It's like I finally could exhale. It felt like I was holding my breath. And then finally we got to exhale. And 1 year later, we go for his 1-year checkup, and they do the entire gamut of tests and and all clear. And we decided to take this amazing trip to Mexico, and it was fabulous. We held hands, and we went out for dinner, and we got to talk about our lives. It was great. And we come home,
which we don't do enough of, actually.
Which we don't do enough of,
right?
And when you get a scare like that, you really reassess. You really get to say the words that you want to say. And so we get back, and he starts not feeling well. He starts getting fluish. And that's all I could say. He starts to get fluish. And I kept saying to him every 2 or 3 days, you should really go see a doctor. But, you know, I just kind of said, you know, that's Mexico. Like, so, you know, did you pick something up? Did you get too much sun? And he just got progressively worse. And about 2 weeks in, I came home from work, and I looked at him and went, oh my God, you look terrible. And he said to me, I can't see, Rose. And his sight was gone. And so I said, oh my God. So I immediately bring him to the hospital. They admit him right away, and understanding, you know, kind of his background medically. And that was on a Wednesday. And right away they diagnosed that there was a new cancer, and that it needed to get treatment immediately. And they put us on a plan, or put him on a regimen very quickly. That was Wednesday, and he died on Friday.
I'm so sorry, Rosemary. Do you think the cancer changed, or was it just the same cancer? Or
it was a totally different. It was a totally different.
Oh,
totally different.
And why? I mean, why? I guess is the first thing you.
Yeah, I think, I'm sure I asked it a million times, and I'm sure they gave me an answer.
Whether you comprehended it or not.
I'm sure I did not comprehend it.
You know, I tell people all the time, Rosemary, when you're in that moment,
fog.
I don't know what happens to your brain.
Fog. Like it just things don't connect. Things don't connect. Things don't connect. And when you when you go through that kind of trauma, it almost is like PTSD. you basically are flattened. You can't think, you can't process, you can't make decisions. And I always tell people, after, things that I've gone through, please don't make a decision for a while after something happens. I was given the advice, and I give it to everyone else. I'm like, don't make a major life decision for a year. Just don't. Just move forward as best you can.
Yeah, just inch around.
Inch around.
Yeah.
And so, so it was it's interesting, in your intro about the backup plan, and have you had the discussions and blah, 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 blah. I had with my husband, I had those discussions, or he had them with me, because I didn't want to have those discussions.
And it's funny because it's usually the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually the women that ask and talk about it, and the men do not want to have anything that's the norm.
Yeah.
Well, so it's like he knew. It's like he knew.
Yeah. And I just didn't want to deal with it. Like, I just didn't ever want to think that our lives could be changed or ended abruptly. I just didn't want to deal with that.
Right. And why do we? I mean, we don't.
We don't. And so, in the 3 a.m. on Friday morning, we get these frantic phone calls, ringing and ringing and ringing, and it was the hospital, and said, you need to come down. So I gathered up my boys, and we went to the hospital. And as we were walking into his room, the nurse said, Peter died in the middle of the night, and he's there and hooked up, and we're keeping his brain going on the machine, but he's not with us. And I knew what to do, because he had always said to me, I'm going to cry, but for some reason he had this thing. I mean, he did not want to live if that's how he was going to be for the rest of his life. And he would always say to me, when we were having a glass of wine out on the deck, he'd be like, promise me, Rose, promise me. Should I ever happen to me, promise me you will not extend my life. Promise me you'll let me go. And so when the nurse said to me, what do I do? And I said to my boys, I know exactly what to do. He was very clear what he wanted to do. Yeah.
But you can imagine in that moment, if you had a big family,
oh,
and you'd have I'm sure there'd be arguments about what you should do. Everybody has their own opinion.
Yeah. Well, funny story, but not. It was my best friend and her husband that drove us to the hospital, because I phoned her and I said, I don't think it's good news. You better come and pick us up. And when I said the words, I said, I know what we're going to do. And I explained to the nurse what we're going to do. Her husband said to me, whoa, 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 Rose, maybe you should take some time and think about this. And so for him, he was like, what are you doing? Like, that's a pretty major decision to make so abruptly. And I said,
yeah,
I'm not making it abruptly. I know what to do. And I am thankful for that, because had my boys started to, kind of go against my decision or prolong my decision or whatever, without knowing what to do, it would have been a very, very difficult, painful, right? Because then I would have been always like, should I have made that decision? Did I make the right decision? And I don't want that responsibility. He took that away from me. Like he made the decision, and I just executed on it. And so it was easy.
It's easy that way.
That decision was, now there's many decisions I had to make that were not that easy after, but that decision I didn't have to agonize over, and I'm thankful for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you had that ability to do that, and to have that clear understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the same goes for parents too. I mean, that's a hard decision to make when someone's sick or in pain.
For sure.
And we don't know what's going to happen, do we? I mean, that was a surprise shock.
Oh, And then I went into a fog. I could not function. Things started to happen around me. We needed to have a funeral. I couldn't even organize the funeral. My friends organized the funeral. I was in a complete daze.
And how, tell the listeners how that felt. I don't think people realize where your brain goes.
Well, it's scary because I have always, I've worked as an executive, an associate vice president for a large financial institution. So, I've used my brain, I've used my rational thinking, I've used my intuition, I've used all of those things and honed them and hopefully became very good at them to run my business. And then they're gone. And I was afraid because I never felt like this. I didn't know why I couldn't make a decision. When people would walk into a room, I almost felt like I needed to hide. I didn't want to be present. It was a very strange thing. My brain didn't work. People would ask me questions, and my girlfriends, thank God, I'm an only child, so I had no one to really help me. They came in like a SWAT team, and they would just interject. People would be like, should we do this? Should we do this? Should we do this? And I sat there frozen, and my girlfriends would one by one come and say, do you want me to make the decision? And I said, yes. And they went, okay. And then they went. I could not make the simplest decisions.
That's what I've heard from all of my people, every single one.
And so
even to the what shoes they wear or like
I remember
anything.
I remember seeing bills, utility bills on my counter, and I didn't know what to do with them. I broke down because I didn't know how to proceed with them. And it's going to sound really weird or strange, but it's like my brain couldn't function. It didn't function
Absolutely.
anymore.
I say that all the time in my shows. It's the weirdest thing.
It stopped working. And it's
like you can think on the A part, like if I can describe it. It's like you have A and B, and to make you think A has to go to B. But when you're in this, A does not go to B.
Does not.
And B gives you the answer.
Yes.
But you only see A, and you don't know what to do with it.
No, and I was very fearful because number one, I didn't understand it. Number two, no one around me understood it, and I couldn't explain it.
Yeah, not when you're in it.
And then there came a time when I just tried to fake it which was even worse. But I thought, right?
That's true.
Right, because I thought, geez, like, what are people going to think? I mean, what are people going to think about me? And it's so crazy because what are they going to think about me? They're going to think that my husband just died and she's, she needs 5 minutes. But
That's true.
I was so concerned, what's my work going to think? What are they going to, what about if I can't function there? And what are my boys going to do? Who's going to take care of them? And I felt this responsibility without knowing how to deal with it. So it's a crazy time. It's a crazy time.
And it lasts so long.
It lasted a long time.
Yeah.
It lasted a long time.
Until you're out of that. Is it like a light bulb that comes on then after that because it is true, you uncover the pain and you start peeling back the layers. I mean, that's true. That's what basically, I guess, you have to release some of that.
You have to release some of that. So, I didn't want to feel my pain. It was so big and so deep. So I did a few things unhealthily to try to avoid it. immediately went back to work within 2 weeks. I'm not even sure, how I functioned. And then,
Well, it's part trying to get your mind off of it and
right. I
trying to
needed
get your life back to normal.
it's true. I just needed to run away from my home. I couldn't stand the silence, and I didn't know what to do with myself. And so I went back to work and did okay, considering, because it was really a safe place for me, because my brain could work, I could make kind of strict little, I could make some decisions about that, but I couldn't make decisions about me. Like I just couldn't do it. And then I drank a lot of wine, which I certainly don't recommend. I kind of needed to, I tried to numb it, but I tried to numb it. And I would say that it wasn't until I could feel my pain, in which, and it took me a couple years, a year or so, in which, I went to go see my doctor. I started on some meds. And I started to go to therapy, that I started to heal a little bit, I started to release some of that pain. And it was only then that I started to heal.
What do you think part of the pain was?
Fear.
Fear, and
Well, it's funny
all
because
of a sudden it's facing you and you're in
yes,
front of you, right?
somebody said to me that grief feels like fear, and as soon as I heard that, I went, oh, they're right. They're right. I mean, I was fearful of everything, and I just didn't understand. I was fearful to pay my bills. I was fearful. A fear overtook me and overwhelmed me. And it was a fear of being alone, fear of responsibility, fear of, how am I going to do this?
What's next?
What's next? And what does my life look like now? Yes.
Yeah. It's not like you look at it and say, what's next? Oh, I've got this wonderful thing happening and this is going to be great, No, it doesn't look like that at all.
No, because in this place, or in my place, in this place of sadness, I would look at everyone else's life and think, they're okay. Their life is moving forward. And I don't know how to make mine move forward. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. I talk about it in I talk about it in a lot of the podcasts. It's like you're in a dark, black room.
Yeah.
No light, no sunshine, no light. And you're walking around the room trying to find where the door is. And then sometimes you find the door handle, but you don't have the strength to open it. And then when you do, and you see what's behind the door, and you see, like, wow, it's like, as soon as you open it, it's like fresh air and lightness and flowers in the meadow. And, I'm sure everybody has some other visualization. But it's like, finally, it's like, oh, I did it. I did it. And now I can get my head back. That's basically what it's like, because it's like you lose your head.
You lose your head. And when you said, did it come all at once? It's so funny because it doesn't. Like, there were times when I had 3 hours of okay, and then I would be in bed for 3 days because I couldn't function. And then I would be like, okay, I think I'm okay. I had a really good day. Like I'm doing good. Or sometimes it would be 3 days and then something would happen, or I would see something, and I would, and so I call it this roller coaster of, there's
triggers.
There's moments of, okay, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And then, oh, and then back down again in this despair and this black. And you're right, it's a very good visual where it's black, there's no light. And it's just, unless you've gone through it, you just don't know.
Yeah. That's why I tried to have a visualization of how it felt. So what was next for you then? Like you got through this grief, because I mean the triggers just continually happen. It doesn't matter where or when or how. But
I did about 2.5 years in. It's funny, right? Because I thought the first year was the worst, and then the second year was almost the worst. Almost worse, if that was possible, because now I was able to understand what was happening, and
you were in a better mindset.
I was in a better mindset, and through this whole process of grieving, I always said, I'm good. I had a wonderful life with my husband. I'm not sure I'm ever going to go into, I'm not sure I want to ever, meet anybody, and, I have a great job and I have wonderful children, whatever. And then there came a point where it wasn't, I was so lonely. And it came and that really surprised me, because my life was very full, but I became so lonely. It was interesting for me. And I thought, okay, it's time. Like I need to meet someone. I need to get out of my basement. I need to just take a walk, go for a coffee. I want that. It's important. I want that now. And I don't know what it's going to look like. And so my girlfriend, who has been amazing, we went online. So I went online and I met a man. And I met an amazing man. And that helped me, and who was patient and so kind. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to be okay. I started to see this light. And not only did I start to see light, I started to feel happy, moments of happy. And I thought, okay, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I was with, and I still am with Tom, but I was with Tom for about a year or so into our relationship. And he says to me,
did he live near you, Rosemary?
He did not. He lived 2 hours away.
Oh, that's not
an hour and a half away. He was in Mississauga. I'm in St. Catharines, maybe an hour, probably an hour.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Not too bad. So we would see each other weekends, and he one day said to me, I feel a lump on your breast. You should get it checked. And I went, and
yuck.
I just couldn't deal with it. So
No.
I did what I normally, have done in the past. I avoided it. I didn't, for months, I didn't do anything. I kept saying to myself, I can't deal with this. This could not be happening to me. No. And then it just kept haunting me and haunting me and haunting me. And so I made an appointment. And, so they confirmed that it was a lump, and I had a biopsy done. And
how long did you wait, Rosemary?
Before I went and got it checked out, about 3 months.
Okay.
3 or 4 months. And but I kept saying to I knew, I kind of knew, but I just didn't want to.
You didn't want to face it.
I didn't want to face it. So, Tom and I go to my appointment to the doctor, and she says, you have breast cancer. And all I could say was, no. and I just wept and wept, like hyperventilating wept. And I just wept. I wept for me. I wept for my kids. I wept for Tom.
And your past husband.
and my husband and my very uncertain future. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
everybody. You wept for everybody.
I just wept. I just could not stop crying. I always say big fat tears, PHAT. Just
Yeah.
it would just
Yeah.
be. And so I wept and I wept and I wept. And yeah. And then I went through my cancer journey, and I had to get a lumpectomy, and I had to go through chemo and radiation.
What year was this?
I was diagnosed in 2017, and so I've now finished all of my treatments, I think, for 3 years. What are we at? 18, 19, 20, 21, yeah. So I was diagnosed in 2017, so it was about a year and a half of
Treatment.
getting surgery, and then chemo, and then radiation, and the healing from it, and is long after. I mean, no one really talks about what it does to you
Mentally
after.
or
Well, mentally and physically. I mean, all that stuff you're putting in your body. I always say it takes as much time to heal after as it does from when you find out. It's like such a big trauma
to the body and everything.
to the body, to the mind, to the psyche, to the cells. Yeah. And so I wrote this book. I wrote in this book because I'm one of 30-ish authors, because I wanted to document my story, my cancer story, and coming back from it. And I wanted people to know that there's hope in this crazy world. And I wanted people to know that there's hope.
That's beautiful. How did Tom react?
Oh,
Supportive, sounds like.
so supportive. And this, I always say, I couldn't write this story if I couldn't make this story up. So the reason why this is such an interesting story is I meet Tom, and Tom is a widower of 2 boys. And he's a widower because his wife died of breast cancer
Oh, jeez.
25 years ago. So he raised his young boys. She died, and her boys were 2 and 5. So I'm sure in his mind has always kind of, I'm always in the back of his mind. So I always say Tom aged 100 years in 1 year, but he I mean, he was my rock. He
Yeah.
stayed, he came to every appointment. And when I would be getting chemo, he would make me laugh. He would try to make me laugh and make the nurses laugh, because he knew that just for a moment, I could, not think about it. But
Yeah.
I always say, God brought me Tom, and maybe my husband and his wife up there
Yeah.
got together and said, Jesus, these people need each other.
Exactly. It was meant to be.
Meant to be.
And he is probably, in his mind, he's thinking, well, it's the second time around for me and I can do it better this time.
Well, it's funny because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, why is this guy staying? I'm like, he did not sign up for this. Like, why is he? It's a testament to who he is, I guess, right? It's a testament to the kind of man he is. That
Well,
stayed.
because some men run
Of course.
fast the other direction.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And yeah, so we fell in love, and we have a pretty amazing relationship now.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially not having, can you imagine going through this if you hadn't have met him?
I
what
did.
that would have looked like.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
Yeah. So
I
there
can't.
are little. I went to the Jan Arden concert yesterday.
I didn't want you to cry so much.
This is normal for me.
Sorry. Oh, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh.
It's terrible, you know. I try not to, but yeah, I usually join in.
Oh,
Oh, jeez. I went to the Jan Arden concert. She said something that's so fitting for right now in your story. Oh, my nose is all plugged now. She said that when something bad happens, something good comes from it. I really thought that's so true.
it's so true.
Even though in your 25 years of marriage and you're thinking you just lost the love of your life, how could that be? Right? But in that time, this is what, like, I've heard also somebody say, in that moment of time, you made a decision at that moment that you thought was the right decision. But when you look at it later, it's like, why did I make that decision? You know, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so let's continue with this crazy story.
And
So where did that bring you then?
yeah. And I want, and that's kind of why I wanted to write my story, and I wanted people to know, because that these things that happen in our lives, if I look at all the things that happened in my life, today, I'm a better person for them. I am, and I'm not just using words because I can. I'm using them because they're true.
Yeah.
I'm better for it.
Even though going through it was
Awful.
yeah. And if someone had have said that to you before it started, you would have laughed. Said there's no way.
Someone did early on. I went to go see a naturopath, and she gave me some things to fill out. And one of the questions was, you know, how is this cancer going to serve you? And I brought this thing home, and I think I ripped it up, and I went, how's it going to serve me? Like, that's the crazy.
That's a weird question.
Like, you know, I think I swore 100%. I swore. And I'm like,
the roof went up off your house.
How is it going to serve me? Like, and I threw it out, and I hated the question. But today, I have an answer for it.
Yes. Yes. So why do you think all this cancer is around you guys? Like your dad and your husband and you, and what's going on?
You know, I don't know the why. I mean, could it be environment? We you know, we live in a farm, on a farm, peach farm. Niagara is a very, very high propensity of cancer as a result of chemicals and things that they put in the land. But, you know, when this happened to me, I went through traditional Western medicine. First of all, it's funny, when I found out that I had cancer and they said to me, we want to do this treatment. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to, I don't want it. I said, I do not want it.
And you went through chemo first and then radiation, or?
I did. And so while I did that, I knew that even though I didn't want to do it, I very quickly started to supplement it with Chinese and other forms of medicine. I went to a naturopath and started, infusions with vitamins. I started to do big time meditation. I started to do yoga. I did hypnotherapy. And in part of all of that, I released a lot of things, a lot of childhood things, a lot of things. And so when you ask me, why was there so much cancer? I don't know the why, but I feel very strongly that I'm changing the trajectory of it in my family. I have worked hard to heal myself emotionally at a cellular level. I did a lot of hypnotherapy. I have focused on, I've invested the last several years. I just have been looking at everything I could to heal myself outside of Western. And I've almost been on a mission. I just wanted to learn about it. And so I did it. Everything that came my way, I would do it.
Awesome. And do you think that would be good for, if there was women out there listening to this right now, when do you make that shift? You and your girlfriend realized that you needed this in your life, this new man. But that's like a huge undertaking. It's not easy to do. It's difficult to get your mind wrapped around it.
So I'm sorry, what's your question? So when would you
when would you tell people to
do
jump into that part?
into a relationship?
Because obviously it was meant to be for you, because you needed it for this next stage that you didn't realize that was happening to you, right? It was getting done for you.
Yeah. So your question is, what would I recommend to people?
When do you think? What would you say? What would you suggest?
About going into a relationship? Oh, I think you'll know. So I saw it with myself, and then I saw it with a girlfriend who also lost her husband. What happens is, even though you don't want to admit it, because there's some guilt around it, and there's some, I can't even do this. How could I possibly have a life without this man that I've had a life with? All of a sudden, there's an emptiness. There's a longing, and it came for me, and I saw it with her too. And I say it, other than just it, I felt lonely. And I'd never felt lonely before. And there was no reason for me to feel lonely. I had a very robust life, but all of a sudden it wasn't enough for me. I yearned for that other kind of connection. I yearned for someone to talk to, have a coffee with, and that's all I wanted. I'm not even sure I ever thought that I wanted a relationship, but I just needed someone to share.
Yeah. Whether you're at a dinner date or in the back of a movie theater or anything, it didn't matter. Connection.
I needed it. I didn't think I would ever need it, but one day, or through, all of a sudden I started to feel this ache. And it took me a while to figure out, and then I'm like, oh, that's what it is. I think I need to. I think I need to, but I had so much anxiety about it, so fearful.
Because you're still married, right?
Right.
That's the whole thing.
That's the feeling, right? That's even though my husband wasn't with me anymore, I've only known him for the last 25 years. I didn't, so yes, it was not an easy thing. And, but, I did it.
Yeah. So moving forward now, how is it since all the treatments and everything for you?
It's great.
Okay.
I feel great. I talk a little bit about it in the book, and that, I went, into victim a little bit, like after the diagnosis. Well, maybe a lot. Why? Why me?
Yeah.
A lot.
Well, that's the first thing you ask yourself. I mean, geez.
Yeah. And there came a point in my journey, actually, it was during one of my treatments, and a radiation treatment. And if anybody's ever had radiation, they do a little tattoo, little dot, and every day for 30 days I would have to go in to get this radiation treatment. And they would, lay me on a table, and they would have a sheet underneath me, and the nurses would shimmy the sheet a millimeter one way, and then and then the light, because they need to get the light source directly on that little tattoo, and shimmy it like a couple of centimeters back and forth, and I would get so restless. I would be like, okay, here, and I would try to move myself. Well, then that messed it all up, and we'd have to start all again. And it became so frustrating and so difficult that at that point, I remember laying there, and I remember surrendering. And I say the word surrendering because I said, okay, God, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop fighting and worrying and trying to control. I'm just going to let you take me and take my healing, and take whatever it is. Like, just, I cannot handle, and I can't handle this weight anymore. So I give it, I surrender. And it was at that moment, and as I continued, I kept saying that. I kept saying to myself, it's not mine to fight. It's not mine to whatever. I will give it
Worry
up.
about.
I will give it up to a higher power. I'll give it up to a higher source. And I started talking to God, and it was sometimes not pretty, and sometimes it was in the middle of the night. A lot of times in the middle of the night, crying, pleading, screaming. I started asking for what I wanted. And I would be like, I want to live. I made this, I'm like, I want to live. I want to be healthy. I want to heal myself. And there was a moment during my treatment as my hair started to fall out. It's very hard for a woman. Breast cancer is tough because it really affects the two parts of a woman that are so womanly. Our hair. And as my hair started to fall out, I remember it was after a shower, and my hair started to kind of just clump out. I started to weep and weep, and I looked in the mirror, and I said, and God, when this is all over, I want hair like a lioness. And that's what I call my story. That's my story. To live
How true is that?
To live like a lioness. And so every day, so you ask me how I am. I'm really, really good. I'm really, really good. I feel amazing. And I have great hair.
You do.
I do. I do.
So ironic, isn't it?
Isn't it? Isn't it?
So what do you think you would tell the listeners? I mean, I could continue the story so much. There's so much more to tell, and everybody, her book is in the description box below. Oh, and if you haven't liked, shared, or subscribed to our channel, please do, because I always take my hand out before I ask Rosemary her question here. I always get it in the wrong direction. Link is subscribe button down below, right down here. Don't forget to click it on so that you get notified of any of our upcoming wonderful guests like Rosemary here, that you get notified about that. Rosemary, what do you think you'd like the listeners to know?
Oh, that there's hope. And whatever that looks like, and it looks different for me than it does for anybody else, but I want them to know that there's hope. And I want them to try really hard to just keep going through it. And just do it one step, another step, and things will start to open up and reveal themselves to you as they did for me. And to support and to surround yourself find a support team. I always say find your tribe, seek them out. There's people out there that want to help you, talk to you. I mean, for the longest time, I held it all in, and then I just think that was, for me, not the right thing to do. And I ended up finding a cancer support group in my local area called Wellspring, Niagara. And that's what they do. And it became my lifeline. I showed up there every day. I just showed up. I needed to be around people that were going through what I was going through. And so that's would be that for me, that was very, very important, to seek it out, to find it wherever it is. It could be friends, it could be the hospital, it could be things like Wellspring Niagara, but to seek out people that can help you and relate to you, where you feel comforted. As soon as I walked in there, I thought, oh, I feel like a warm blanket is around me.
Oh, isn't that nice?
So nice.
And I guess they're in most areas, right? I would suspect.
I don't know about Wellspring. In some major centers, yes, but I know that hospitals have lots of resources. And so, yeah, do whatever it takes to get your mind off of it for 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours.
And have a laugh every day of something.
And have a laugh. I mean, I had this amazing group of friends, and I realize now one of the most important, so I love to travel. It's kind of been my thing. And every time I would see one of them, they would talk about our trips. They would be like, when this is over, we're going to go to Mexico, when this is over. And I thought today, I look back and I say, I know exactly what they were doing. They were creating a future. They were giving me hope. And for that 5 minutes, I'd be like, oh, I do want to go to, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
Europe would be fabulous. And so find those people. And if you're one of those people supporting someone with cancer, you give them hope. You give, people would say to me, you've got this. Even when I didn't have it, they'd be like, you got this, Rosemary. You got this. You got this.
I didn't like when people said you got this.
Okay.
Or you can do this.
Yeah.
Or you're so strong.
Oh, I hate you're so strong.
I hate that.
No, I'm not strong.
I'm not strong.
I am so not strong. I hated it. But I was okay with, you got this, Rosemary. You got this. You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, that sounds like strength, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's really nice. I think that's so very important to have people supporting them.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess girlfriends would be nice, of course, but they may not really know what you're going through, really.
They may not. And it's fabulous, and they should be around you because they're your people. But wherever possible, reach out to some other resources, and they're around, and they're free of charge often, and they're there. I mean, my local hospital, gave me free wigs, gave me free, just support and free therapy and free Reiki, and it was just all around me. I'm so thankful for all of those things. And so I see where all the hard-earned money of cancer support and all of the things that they do to raise money, I see where it goes. It helped me.
Yes. How long did you have no hair? Did you wear a wig, or did you wear a scarf, or what did you feel most comfortable in?
I wore a wig. I did.
Yeah. I guess some people like the scarves too, right?
Yes. And sometimes, I didn't. But everyone's different. I have girlfriends who never wore a wig and loved the freedom of scarves. That wasn't my journey. Like I wanted a wig, so I got one.
Was it 6 months you have to do this kind of thing for? How long does that last?
Well, when your hair falls out, it happens fairly quickly. And to grow back took I can't even remember how long it took, but it was a long time for my hair to grow, a long time.
So it might be 6 months to a year kind of thing, that
For sure.
before you're comfortable with your hair?
For sure, because it grows I don't even know what your hair grows a month, but it's not much.
Yeah,
especially
especially when you're waiting.
especially when you're waiting, it's not much at all. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you so very much for coming on and spilling the beans about all the inside scoop and the backstage stuff and your feelings. And you've just been so welcoming to people. I appreciate the hope that you can give others as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And everything is down below in the description box for Rosemary. You can reach out to her by her email address, as well as her book is on Amazon, so it's easy to find. And her story is there as well. And so thank you. Thank you again, Rosemary. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And you had tears with us today, guys. So, I mean, everybody's thankful all the way around. We don't always cry here, but sometimes we do. And yeah, I'm a good one for it, actually. So take a moment and subscribe to our channel and click on that bell so you get notified. And when you are thinking about that special someone today watching this show, reach out to them. Tell them how much you love and care about them. Oh, dear.
I'm sorry, Tina.
Oh, gosh. It's okay.
I always say good tears, like tears.
They're good.
I always say
They're
tears,
good.
Kevin. You got to get them out. You've got to get your tears out. You
The
gotta get
stuff
'em out.
I say all the time, and I can't even talk.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Expect the unexpected because you don't know what tomorrow might bring. So call them today, right now. Knock on their door, whatever it is. So stay tuned for our podcast and our live streams. I have great conversations with some of the most interesting and accomplished people in the world, just like Rosemary here. I mean, if we didn't have this show, we wouldn't have Rosemary here telling us about all this stuff. Like, I just love this detail, and I love it when our guests can be so open and tell us the behind the scenes feelings. It definitely hits me, as you can see. Okay, we were on all podcast platforms: YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. And we have a Facebook group that you are welcome to join as a VIP group. And we have like-minded community where people can ask questions or say, my aunt's going through this, or my sister, or what do I do when? It's all that kind of stuff. And we are going to sing Carol Burnett because we always do. We end with Carol Burnett, Rosemary. I'm sure you remember who Carol Burnett is.
I do.
And I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh with tears and sing a song. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, comes a time we have to say so long. So long, everybody. Stay safe, be kind. Thank you, Rosemary, for coming on our show, giving us some insight of feelings and everything in between. You're welcome. And thank you, listeners, for coming on our show, listening to my tears today. And expect the unexpected, because you don't know what tomorrow may bring. Stay safe. Be kind. Till next time. Bye. And we got to click on the button.